Welcome to Become a Conflict Guru, Module 10, Fear or Love. Welcome to the last section, Fear or Love. There are really only two motivators in life, fear or love, and that everything else is a variation of these two motivators. A conflict guru is motivated by love, and we're going to explore these two in this section, starting off with a real life story.
Back in 1901, Michigan had a football team that wasn't doing well. So they fired their coach and hired this quiet, unknown man called Fielding Yoast. At his first interview with the press, he said, "I'm only going to say two things. First, this team will be undefeated. Second, the combined score of the opposing teams will be 49 or less." He turned around and walked out. His team protested. "Coach, you're setting us up to be the laughingstock in football." The coach looked at them and said, "Take off your uniform and gear and stack it in that corner." Then he walked to the blackboard and wrote down one word. Only when you understand what that means, then can you retrieve your uniform and gear and play on my team. That year, Michigan was undefeated and then beat Stanford 49-0 at the Rose Bowl. They remained undefeated for the next 4 years. What was the word Coach Yoast wrote on the blackboard?
What do you think the word was that Coach Yoast wrote on the blackboard? I think you'll be surprised to find out that it was love. Love can help us exponentially capitalize on our differences and improve our interactions with others. Coach Yoast knew at an intuitive level that the mindset, perspective, and ultimate actions on the team had to come from a different level than I have to. I have to practice. I have to play in the snow. I have to get slammed by others. I have to play in the mud. No, he wanted them to come from a place of loving what they did, to love playing football in all sorts of weather against any opponent, to love being a part of the team, and to love the sport itself. He knew that when they got to this point, they would be unstoppable. It took more than 5 years for the total points of the opposing teams to reach 49 points. And his team outscored their opponents 2,821 to 42 in those 5 years. Now that's unstoppable. In recent years, the idea of love in the workplace, while maybe not becoming mainstream and a word to throw around, has become more acceptable. Harvard Business Review studied this back in 2014 and found that the more love coworkers feel at work, the more engaged they are. This love is the compassionate form of love, which is far less intense or intimate than romantic love. 5 years ago, I had the opportunity to interview the CEO of a large electric co-op in our country, Blue Bonnet Electric Co-op. A year after this interview, in 2011, they had the large fire that destroyed 1,700 homes and businesses. And his company was instrumental in bringing the whole community back to life after that tremendous fire. So this is the interview with Mark Rose, CEO of Blue Bonnet Electric.
I think what is compelling in our story is not that we picked love as a foundation value, but how we came to have that foundation value. Lots of corporations have foundation values, and they often become quite run-of-the-mill. So when we sat down to do ours, came up with a list what I thought was fairly provocative, and it did include love as a foundation value. And then I immediately copped out and switched it for compassion, because facing the crucial test, I don't know that I wanted to go through that whole dialogue. You mean we're really going to have love as a foundation value? You got to be kidding. So I picked compassion. And it took an email from one of my coworkers to say, great list, like what you did. Maybe one of these days I'll actually work in a company where the CEO actually has the courage to list love as a foundation value. That's all it really took for me to hit the resend button and say, you know what, folks, it is going to be love as a foundation value. It's not going to be compassion. Compassion really did mean it the first time. And from there, we embraced the challenge of what it means for an organization to kind of lay it all out on the line and say, love is a critical foundation value. And it worked for us in this context. It's not a group hug. It's not kind of love in the traditional sense or the corny sense. It's what we mean when we say, or don't say, I love my job. I truly love what I'm doing. For a lot of our folks, it relates back to them being able to say why they love the Dallas Cowboy, or why they love their particular hangout place, or what it is that they love to do that makes them feel unique about us as an individual, about us as a company. But that didn't mean that it was easy. We laid it out there. There was some pushback. There was the laughing. There were the linemen saying, all right, what's all this about? But we had that critical moment where we were meeting as a group and we were discussing our foundation values, discussing what all the values mean and how they relate. And we came to love. And we really did get that. Okay, here we go. Let's all get together, do the warm and fuzzy. And it was interesting to see who was passionate about it, and frankly, who was having some of the same kind of troubles that I had, in terms of just copping out. And we got to this point where one person who hadn't really said anything stood up and said, I want to talk about this foundation value. It's because I've been thinking about it, thinking about what it must mean, what it must mean to have love as a foundation value. He said, and here's what it means. He said, I remember, and I'm not going to cite the name, but he said, I remember when we had our last fatality. He was my partner. And I remember being on the scene. I remember the days after that. Remember that funeral. I remember all of us being together and how we felt. And I've been thinking about that. And I think that's what love is. He said, love was there when we were all going through that together. Love was there when we were all crying together. Love was there when we were all, talking about what this meant for us to lose one of our team members to a fatality. And so as I think about our industry and what the men and women in this industry do, the fact that they go out in all kinds of weather at all hours of the day, the fact that if someone makes the simplest of mistakes, that a life is over, that it results in a fatality. That puts to it a dimension, I think, that goes beyond just saying, hey, you know what, I have to like what I do. No, for us to be successful, we truly do have to love what we do. And for us, love is the common denominator that makes all of our foundation values work. And therefore, we embrace it. We're not shy about it. And we work our hardest every day to prove that we really mean it.
As you saw, love in the workplace doesn't have to be an outrageous idea. It's just one of two basic human motivators, the other one being fear. Conflict manifests and perpetuates because of fear. Our needs aren't being met, or we're afraid that they won't be met. This spikes our emotions and dictates our behavior. Love, on the other hand, calms our reptilian brain and forms an intention to have ours and others' needs met. As I've said before, where focus goes, energy flows. and just like anything else, is a choice we make in every moment of our lives. So do you want to be curious and learn, or win and be right? Do you want to explore and discover, or prove your point? Do you want to strengthen your relationships, or just look good? Find the truth, or punish and blame others? Produce results, or just keep the peace? Support and encourage others, or avoid conflict? The choice is yours. We have two choices. Let's choose courage. Let's choose to love despite the fear. If you haven't already heard Brené Brown's TED Talk on vulnerability and read her books, I highly recommend you do. If anyone is bringing love and compassion mainstream, it is her. Let me take you back to the progressive cycle and the regressive cycle. The power of love can create unimaginable benefits in your life, your relationships, and results, creating positive forward momentum. In the midst of fear, the downward spiral is almost guaranteed. Life is not all sunshine and rainbows, and a healthy dose of reality is required to effectively deal with the inevitable conflict that will surely come into your life, and it's really your choice how you confront it, through love or fear. Conscious curiosity is like taking the high road, staying motivated by love, focusing on your needs and the needs of others, driving you to revitalize your relationships and elevate the results you achieve together. Reptilian reactions are like taking the back alley road in the scary part of town, where you're driven by your fear and just trying to make it out alive at the expense of anyone you encounter. I'm not saying you don't need to be cautious. What I am saying is that becoming a conflict guru involves courage. Initially, you will need to consciously choose love over fear and connection over disconnection. When you do use this courageous curiosity, you will tune into people's needs and the feelings attached to them that drive yours and others' actions. Eventually, it will become an unconscious act by you. Now go ahead and refer to your personal challenge. Determine whether you're coming from a place of fear or love. If it's fear, this is something to talk about with the other person, how the two of you can turn it into a love approach rather than a fear approach. Whatever your focus is, fear or love, it says more about you than others, and it is a predictor of whether you will operate in the regressive or progressive cycle. This Zulu proverb is another way of saying that we are all connected. My humanity is tied to yours. So here we are in the last practice. It's all about fear or love. So as you go through your day today, reflect on your motive, fear or love. Perhaps use a wisdom access question like, what's driving me right now? Is it fear or love? Who knows what answer you come up with? You may be surprised. Then, as I said earlier, it's not knowledge that's power, it's the application of knowledge that's power. So take action on your thought of shifting from fear to love. Skills, like anything else, takes practice to develop into unconscious behavior. So practice again and again until it becomes an unconscious way of operating. This training is not just simply about great ideas or interesting concepts. It's about applying these concepts in real-life situations to improve our relationships, the human connection, and the results we can achieve in our interaction with others. Applying these tools is your choice. Choose to use them and your relationships and results improve. Choose not to use them and you'll continue to manage your conflict in the way you have in the past. The choice is yours. Will you be willing to be responsible for using these tools to obtain the results you most want? I hope so. because they have made a tremendous difference for me to have the life I love and live it powerfully. You can too. As I've said before, it's not knowledge that's powerful, it's the application of knowledge that is powerful. So will you operate your life by applying this knowledge you've learned to choose curiosity in each moment, being responsible for your choices, perspectives, and meanings you create in each moment? And when you find you're not operating in the progressive cycle, will you pause, take the Curious ABC pause to shift you back into the progressive cycle? If so, please sign the pledge in your workbook to commit to become a conflict guru, one step, one success at a time. Congratulations, you're almost through your journey of the training to become a conflict guru and getting out into this great big world of ours to use these new skills. With your new awareness, you're going to see things differently from a different perspective of we're all just trying to get our needs met. You also know that consideration for others to keep every interaction safe and respectful is key to your success and well-being in all your relationships and the results you're trying to achieve. You're going to speak to and relate to others differently than you have before. To become unconsciously competent in these skills, you must practice them daily until they become a way of life for you. For small successes and less stressful situations throughout your day will lead to vast improvements when conditions turn critical. Before I say goodbye, I'm going to quickly recap in the next few minutes some of the most important lessons I've shared with you in these 10 modules. Remember the construct of the golden circle? Why is all about what's in it for me. We are all driven by our needs. Focus on needs and the conflict will lose its charge. How is our internal gauge of whether our needs have been met or not. Let your feelings guide you to your needs. What is the outward manifestation of our feelings, the actions and behaviors that express what's going on inside of us with how we feel about whether our needs are being satisfied or not? When you find yourself under stress, conflict, or confusion, take the Curious ABC pause to drill down into the golden circle. Hit the pause button and don't say another word in reaction to what just happened. This would just start a fight. After taking several deep breaths, get curious about what was said, heard, or observed, how you or others are feeling, and why. What needs are not being acknowledged or met. We create problems for ourselves and others when we relate to subjective meanings as if they were objective facts. Remember, we are meaning-making machines. Share facts to bring others down the path to the same conclusion or meaning you arrived at. Feelings have two functions. The key is the sequence, GPS before gas. You can choose to have your feelings explode on others, creating more drama and upset in your life, or you can use yours and others' feelings as a predictable guidance system, a GPS to their needs. Then you can harness that energy to get your needs met in a safe and respectful way. Needs and strategies are different. Often the worst disagreements occur when both parties think they're right and are attached to their strategies. So focus on the underlying needs first to open up new possibilities for getting these needs met. The key to revitalizing your relationships and elevating your results is to consciously choose curiosity. You can do this by honestly expressing what is going on with you, by making curious requests to get your needs met. Or you can curiously investigate with others about what is going on with them. When you approach conflict in either way, you are keeping it safe and respectful since you are not blaming, judging, or complaining. You are simply unraveling the golden circle, OFNR. Observe what was said or done, tune into and acknowledge feelings, guess or ask about the underlying need, and then make requests to align your worlds. Being curious about needs will keep you in the progressive cycle so you and others run the internal story, hey, this worked for me. By being curious and connecting with others, your relationships and results will flourish. Whenever they are challenged, ask yourself a wisdom access question like, what cycle am I operating in now, and what can I do different to make sure I operate in the progressive cycle? Hint, use conscious curiosity. Here we are at the end of your training. I appreciate the time you've spent with me and hope you think the time was well spent for you. If you don't do anything else with this information that you've gained, please address the personal challenge you've been working on throughout these modules that you identified as a source of pain and frustration for you. Remember to use courageous curiosity to not only meet your needs, but the needs of the person you're in conflict with. Please let me know how it goes by emailing me, and connect with me on Facebook and LinkedIn. I wish you the very best on your journey and hope that we can stay in touch as we journey through this life, making a positive difference wherever we go and with whatever we do. Thank you.